Real change never takes place from the top on down, but always from the bottom on up.
Bernie Sanders' healthcare for all idea is gaining steam.
Free tuition, free college tuition, free tuition champion, Senator Bernie Sanders.
Bernie Sanders added, the greatest threat to national security is climate change.
The future of our planet is at stake.
Sanders taking on Amazon.
Bernie Sanders has been consistent hammering about income inequality.
Nobody in America works 40 hours a week, should be living in poverty. So our economy is rigged. We have a campaign finance system which is corrupt.
Sanders leading the charge to stop war against Yemen.
The first time ever the Senate has voted to end an unauthorized war.
The fight against injustice has been the work of his life.
Jobs and education, not jails and incarceration. We are not going to retreat on women's rights.
Sanders pushing a bold agenda that includes protecting DACA recipients and comprehensive immigration reform.
You don't rip little children away from the arms of their mother.
A major announcement from Amazon. Amazon will raise its minimum wage to $15 an hour. 350,000 workers.
Thousands of workers at Disney World will get raises. It's a victory for Bernie Sanders.
It's a victory for all workers. Brothers and sisters, we have a lot of work in front of us. If we are prepared to stand together, there is no end to what the great people of our nation can accomplish.
Hi, everyone.
Welcome back to the Convo Couch. I'm Pasta Jardula.
And I'm Fiorella.
Wow. I'm teared up.
Yeah, that's the thing. I was talking to my man Nico House like at 4 a.m. when this happened.
Yes.
And
Crazy
he was like,
girl.
why am I tearing up? I'm like, like it's because we remember 2016. We feel those emotions come right up. And it's a lot, and you know what? And it's because we all feel connected in that way that something has to be done. We can't ignore this anymore. And we've been trying since 2015, before the campaign to actually get things done. And now it's 2019 and we have a chance to do it. And I believe this is our last chance. And fam, today's the day after, Bernie announced today's like the day after Christmas, so to speak.
Yeah. You already unwrapped your toys. Now you get to really play with them. Now you get to see what they're all about.
Now
you get
the work
to inspect those toys and see what's in front of you to make those toys work properly.
Exactly.
So he announced 4 a.m. in the morning over here. And
yeah, he didn't even
hit
wait
the
for
ground
us.
running. Fam, this crazy girl was up. I got a text at 4 a.m. I'm rolling over in my sleep and I see Bernie announced at 4 a.m. I'm like, what are you doing up, you maniac?
Yeah, a lot of us didn't sleep that
And
day.
as soon as he announced, fam, you need some Scott Old to win this presidency. How did he do, fam?
So the latest numbers are, in the last 24 hours, Bernie has raised, through the grassroots progressive, through the $27, through hundreds of thousands of donors, $6 million that just knocked it out of the ballpark.
Yeah.
Kamala's record of 1 million, that was in 24 hours, that was knocked out of the ballpark instantly. Nobody has raised this amount of money that quickly. And that tells you one thing. This isn't something that the campaign did necessarily, that they themselves did. It is the following and the momentum Bernie has. It is the fact that many of us came together months ago and said the minute he announces, we have to flood him with donations because we have to show the special interest groups and the corporatists that we don't need their money. We don't need their super PACs. We don't need to be holden to the special interest groups.
And Johnny Tsunami, I believe you found something that shows that the money that Bernie raised is making someone scared. What do you got for us, Johnny Tsunami? Oh, yeah, put your microphone on. It helps over there. We can't just... What did you find? Tell the audience. Hello.
Check. Okay.
So what did you find, Johnny Tsunami?
I was doing this research. I found this little web page here and this article, and it links to a certain website.
A certain website.
A certain website.
Mm-hmm.
Where is it?
That's not the one.
Where is it?
Somebody else is asking for donations now, right?
Yes.
Out of the gate.
yes.
We'll find it. Someone is asking for a
response.
Bernie Sanders hit $6 million. And like you said, fam, you were there. You were ready. It was like people were already with the run, Bernie, run kind of situation. Everybody was just on pins and needles waiting. And they knew as soon as it happened, like Carlos Mero Queen said, we flip that switch. We go to work. We flood him with donations. We let Trump know out the gate that we're coming for that ass.
And the...
we're coming for that ass.
And the amount of donations was actually even less than $27. It was actually like around $12 because some people, obviously, the progressive movement doesn't have the money. Yeah. But we do have the numbers and we do have like the drive. Yeah. We're the ones that are suffering. So obviously we're going to be more passionate.
So yeah, it's right here. It says Socialist Bernie raised $6 million in 24 hours. You go to this page.
Okay.
Look at this.
Socialist.
This is Mr. Donald J. Trump. Now read this over here because this is great. Where he said the money Bernie Sanders and his campaign just announced in the first 24 hours of his 2020 campaign, and he raised over $6 million from his what base, Johnny?
His socialist base.
So we also know right out the gate from our dear president, we know there's two going around. Fam, we talk about the turkey talk. About when it comes around Thanksgiving, when you're sitting there with your uncle, and look at Donald, he's putting up your contribution is $35, and we're going to give you 140. We're going to match it. We're going to triple that son of a bitch. That's how scared they are, and they keep throwing this socialist word around like it's some evil entity. And I hate to tell you, but you ain't going to scare anybody under 50 years old anymore. They want more social programs. They want a better life, fam. What do you think?
Yeah, that's the majority of us now. I mean, we're pretty much taking over from here on out. I mean, that's just how it goes. And you know, that word doesn't really have the same effect as it did a few years ago. No. And to be honest, everybody who's intelligent, as fake as it is adopting Bernie Sanders' platform because they know that is what is hot and popular right now, especially with Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez kind of reflecting that as well, and the ideas of Ilhan Omar and all of these new progressives that are coming into the field, so to speak. And Tulsi Gabbard is another one that's reflection of that too.
Well, let's get to his announcement speech. I believe we got a couple sections you sectioned off, and you want to break it down for us, fam. I know I love when you do this stuff. Let's go to the announcement speech. We're going to go 0 through 106 right there.
Right, the announcement speech.
There we are. Yep.
Hi, I'm Bernie Sanders. I'm running for president. And I'm asking you today to be part of an unprecedented grassroots campaign of 1 million active volunteers in every state in our country. Our campaign is not only about defeating Donald Trump, the most dangerous president in modern American history. It is not only about winning the Democratic nomination and the general election. Our campaign is about transforming our country and creating a government based on the principles of economic, social, racial, and environmental justice. Our campaign is about taking on the powerful special interests that dominate our economic and political life. I'm talking about Wall Street, the health insurance companies, the drug companies, the fossil fuel industry, the military-industrial complex, the private prison industry, and the large multinational corporations that exert such an enormous influence over our lives.
So right off the bat, he's pretty much breaking it down for you exactly what this campaign's about. He's focusing on domestic issues, a little bit differently from someone that is just as to the left of Bernie, if not more, but she's focused more on foreign policy issues like Tulsi Gabbard is what I'm talking about. But this is Bernie's strong point, the economic issues, the working class issues, taking down the corporate oligarchy, taking down Wall Street, taking down the insurance companies that are, keeping people sick and profiting off of our sickness.
The military-industrial complex that takes half of our tax money and use it for war. He actually named out specifically who we're going out with. And I think it was really good, too, the way he talked about social and racial justice there. I think he incorporated everybody in there and their needs and concerns. So when you hear people say, oh, he missed an opportunity, I'm like, no. He plainly said right there, it's also about social and racial justice, as well as taking on all these economic challenges, fam.
Exactly.
Let's go to the next part, 245 to 335, fam. What else you got for us?
The powerful special interests in this country have unbelievable power, and they want to maintain the status quo. They have unlimited amounts of money to spend on campaigns and lobbying, and have huge influence over the media and political parties. The only way we will win this election and create a government and an economy that works for all is with a grassroots movement, the likes of which has never been seen in American history.
Nice.
They may have the money and the power. We have the people. That is why we need 1 million Americans who will commit themselves to this campaign.
You know, I told my sister yesterday, Janine, Florida is going to be a big hunting ground. In other words, we win Florida, we win this election. We know that Bernie's going to go up there and he's going to battle up in those particular the Midwest, the Rust Belt, where Hillary Clinton was decimated from her attachment to NAFTA and the corporations that she fluffed up. Those people, she lost that area. Bernie Sanders is on the wall, so he's going to win those areas. But I like the fact that he's calling out, let's get 1 million people in each state. So people like in Florida, Pennsylvania, Ohio, let's go. It is time to win these states back.
Well, he's saying like 1 million people, like just a million people
across the board.
Yeah, I think he said across the board.
I thought it was like 1 million in each state.
Yeah. No, that's a lot of people. Can you imagine? Like 50 million people.
Well, everybody who's going to vote is going to volunteer.
But no, that's actually a lot of people, and you know what? And like, it is going to take all those people to be in multiple states because we're gonna need that. California is going to be one of the most pivotal states as well, and also one of the most hard fought states because of Kamala Harris. So
they're going to cheat for her in California. The establishment's already been propping her up. We got to get on the horn, fan, and make sure that we're going to get eyes on California's election.
But I do want to point out something he said. None of this is going to happen. And he said this in other interviews as well that we're going to go over. But none of this is going to happen unless we have the people power. That is a very Marxist statement to make. And I'm not saying that he even is anywhere near that because he's not. Bernie is actually pretty moderate in the world scheme as far as where he stands politically. Yeah. But he's talking about a working class revolution. He's talking about people rising up and saying enough is enough. He's talking about people seizing the means of production, seizing these, like, in other words, but that's what he's saying. But that doesn't mean that we are going to see more government control. It is us, the people, holding the government accountable. That's why things like what Donald Trump says make zero sense, because Bernie is actually putting the power back in the hands of the people.
Donald. Let's go to the next part, fam. We got some more beautiful stuff. You got to get to work today.
Now it is time to complete that revolution and implement the vision that we fought for. So here is my question for you. Will you stand with me as part of a 1 million-person grassroots movement which can not only win the Democratic nomination, not only win the general election, but most importantly, help transform this country so that finally we have a government that works for all of us and not just the few. Together, we can create a nation that leads the world in the struggle for peace and for economic, racial, social, and environmental justice. And together, we can defeat Donald Trump and repair the damage he has done to our country. Brothers and sisters, if we stand together, there is no limit to what we can accomplish. I hope you'll join me. Thank you very much.
There you are, fam.
Yeah, I mean, again, like the whole idea, like we need to stand together, we need to work together to defeat Donald Trump. But he also doesn't stop at Donald Trump. He says to focus on the corporations, the lobbyists, all of these people that are negatively influencing our elections. And no other candidate besides maybe Tulsi or Yang have said that. And you know what? And that's something that we need to hear more. And that is literally why Bernie Sanders is Bernie Sanders, because he's been saying this for the last 30 plus years.
35, 40 years. And it's kind of funny, too, because we have the CBS interview coming on right now. And I woke up to the smears. So I went attacking and debunking the smears, which we'll get into. And then I went back and watched all these interviews that we had on CBS and stuff. And everything was such in a wheelhouse when he was talking to his constituents. Because he later went on TYT and he was speaking to that area of concern to their audience. And watch the CBS interview. He killed it here. He slayed this, fam. You slayed it, dog.
Real change, Don, is not going to come when somebody gets to the White House and say, oh, gee, members of Congress, I think you should, take on the hundreds of millions of dollars spent by the pharmaceutical company, do the right thing. That's not how it's going to happen. It happens when people stand up and fight back. That's the way that real change has always happened in this country.
You used to talk about a revolution. Yes. That's what you're talking about here.
That's right. In other words, once again, it's not going to happen inside the Beltway. The only way that Congress and the White House is going to move is when millions of people really do stand up and say, enough is enough. We want a government, not just rhetoric, this is reality, a government that works for all of us, not just wealthy campaign contributors.
Did you used to say,
this is dangerous. You're quoting me to myself. All right. What did I say?
You told Bob Schieffer, you said, I think it's fair to say that I'm...
Yeah, that's another one right there. First of all, I gotta tell you, Bernie is camera ready. He's being charismatic. He's being fun. He's being personable. You can really relate to him. And once again, he's talking about the same thing he's been talking about for 35 years, about us coming together and fighting back against the establishment, not just one man.
And what does that mean? So he said it's not going to happen out on the inside. And that's what I mean when I'm focusing on, he's literally telling you in a very discreet way that the revolution isn't going to just be electoral.
Yeah.
It's not about just, us infiltrating the Democratic Party, because that's not enough. Because you know what? People get co-opted, because things happen, because you have to work inside those rules. It's about people on the outside coming together and actually pushing that change on the outside as well as on the inside. This is why his critics, people who say, well, Bernie's not to the left enough. Well, he's not really a socialist. Well, Bernie isn't doing enough. That's because he's literally telling you there is only so much I can do within the party electorally. You guys outside the party are the ones that have to carry the torch. Yeah. So this isn't just about Bernie Sanders getting in the presidency. This is about people demanding having a workers' revolution, having
from the ground up.
From the ground up, and just like people in France have done, people in the Catalonia, that is what is going to actually change things.
And I think a lot of things that we learned in this last couple of years when Bernie told us to get involved in the electoral politics from the ground up, there's still a lot more challenges that we have to face. So regardless of Bernie Sanders getting elected or not, we still have to do the work on the ground from the lower levels of government, continue to run, continue to fight the system, and continue to get the AOCs in office, the Ilhan Omars, the Rashida Tlaibs. We got to get more of these people in office, so we just can't stop and just say, Bernie, save us. We got to save ourselves.
Exactly.
Let's get to this next part, because there's more good stuff to come. And also, let me just point out that everything that Bernie Sanders has done, fam, because you kind of touched this, it's all part of the plan. You know what I'm saying? It's what's the word I'm looking for? It's strategic.
Yeah.
So when he's had to fall on his sword, where a lot of people were upset that they thought he quit. No, he played it strategically, and now he's in a position to win the White House, and we're in a position to be stronger than ever, because we can also take the Senate back as well. And FDR's new coming comes around. Let's go. My bad. Sorry.
Car, go 50 miles north, and you'll be in Quebec, Canada. Now, somehow or another in Canada, for a number of decades, they have provided quality care to all people without out-of-pocket expenses. You go in for cancer therapy, you don't take out your wallet. And they do it for about 50% per capita of the cost that we spend. Now, if our friends in Canada can do it, if our friends in the UK can do it in a different way, if our friends in Scandinavia can provide quality health care to all of their people as a right for far less cost than we spend, you tell me why we can't do it. And I will tell you the answer. So I'm not going to give you the opportunity. I'm going to give you the answer. And that is, it is not a health care issue. It is a political issue. It's an economic issue. It's the power of the insurance companies and the drug companies. And I'm prepared to take them on.
Let me ask you a policy. Right.
So he's literally he didn't even let him answer, because they always go back to, well, how are you going to pay for it, Senator? Or how are you going to pay for this? Well, he's telling you, we spend way more than our neighbors in Canada, yet we have nothing compared to what they have. And he's telling you that it's not about the affordability of Medicare for all. It is about the special interest groups, the insurance companies that refuse to actually let people have healthcare as a human right, which it is, and he focuses on that as well.
Yeah, and he, this is something he's been talking about for a long time, and he keeps echoing this Trump because nothing's really changed with Trump. Nothing's really. I mean, he hasn't helped Medicare. He hasn't helped freaking people with health issues. If anything, he's decimated the ACA, which was still just a small lifeline. I mean, I understand it's a program that mandates insurance, and that's bad, and we need to get to the next step. But if anything, he's digressed, and Bernie Sanders is still, speaking the same language. We have it right here in Canada next to us, 50% left per person. How come the greatest country in the world can't do this?
Exactly.
Let's get this last part over here because the CBS interview is awesome. Go back and watch this, people.
More coverage than is currently the case.
So the other challenge to your healthcare plan will be cost. People.
There they go, fam.
Explain it to them, but people will say, "My goodness, there's no way everybody's going to get covered." And some of the estimates that come out.
I need you in the media to help us explain the truth.
Yeah.
We spend twice as much per capita on healthcare as the Canadians. All right. And the reason is we waste an enormous amount of money in administration and an incredibly dysfunctional and complicated system. Our proposal will cost the American people less than the current dysfunctional system. There are some estimates, by the way, that over the next 10 years, the current system, if not changed, could run up to $50 trillion. Now, here's where the dishonesty comes in. All right, people say, Bernie Sanders wants to raise your taxes. What they forget to tell you is that Bernie Sanders is going to do away with all of your private health insurance premiums. You're a family of four, John. The average family now is paying $28,000 a year for health insurance. That's going to end. No more out-of-pocket expenses. No more deductibles. The cost of prescription drugs is going to go down. We expand the kinds of coverage available for senior citizens. It's a good deal.
But that transition, which is essentially...
So, fam, if I got to pay $12,000 more in taxes, but I don't have to pay the $28,000, do I save money? Because I think it's now $16,000 in my pocket that I didn't have.
Right, exactly, and that's the way to answer it when they tell you that you how are you going to pay for it? He just touches on every single point, and it's something that affects very many of us. I know so many young people that don't have insurance just because, and they can't go to the doctor if anything happens, and you're one illness or one accident away from being in huge debt, and that's just not fair when across the border, and soon across the border in Mexico, and in other countries that are supposed to be third world countries, people have access to healthcare that is completely free, not just access to affordable healthcare, but real healthcare for everybody.
I would like you to remember that Cuba has better healthcare than the United States. Let's get on to the next stuff, fam, because you got to get to work. The last we talked about the Sanders campaign raising all this money. It scared Donald Trump. He knows who his adversary is. He knows who his challenge is. He's recognizing it early, and you got to give some. Let's give it up to Trump for at least noticing who his competition.
Yeah, Bernie said, said it himself how much they raised. He's really happy. We're just getting started. He's absolutely right. This is just the second day, and a lot of people the media is a little bit different now. Bernie is actually a front runner. A lot of the media has been saying he's actually a front runner. He's no longer the underdog.
Can't lie
anymore. He's coming out completely different, and that's why everything that happened in 2016 had to happen, because he wouldn't be in this position had he taken another route. It was strategically
planned, fam. I think a lot of people, talk to a lot of my friends who are Greens, a lot of people who will not go back to Bernie Sanders. I was watching the Tim Canova special the other day, and there are some areas of concern with Bernie Sanders that we're going to get into, not on this show, because it's all about the happiness, because we know the positives way outweigh the negatives. So let's get to the second part over here. Johnny, if you got a little music in the background, you can play. If you don't, never mind. But, fam, I woke up to the schmears, the schmear. And I'm not talking about when I used to wake up in Boca Raton, Florida, when I have a bagel with cream cheese and lox, and we call that a schmear. I'm talking about a character schmear. So you wake up, and the first one, what do you hear right off the bat is, what do you think it is? I mean, Bernie Sanders, the corporatist, joins the 2020 race. So now they're trying to say that he's a rich corporatist, whatnot.
Yeah, this is from a neoliberal, a centrist, whatever you want to call it, standpoint, saying that, Bernie should just pretty much give the race to a woman of color, saying Bernie, is a centrist, that corporatist. Bernie, it's just They're not even trying.
No.
That's lazy. Bernie, you just called him a socialist. Now you're going to call him a corporatist? You know, it doesn't even make sense.
And the first thing you hear, though, is Bernie Sanders is too old to be president. This is the one that's driving me apeshit crazy, fam. He's less than 5 years younger than Donald J. Trump.
He's younger than Pelosi.
He's 2 years younger than Pelosi. He's 1 year older than Biden. You don't ever hear anybody say anything about their age, fam. So right off the bat, here it goes. The 77-year-old senator will be too old to run for president, fam. Anything to say about that? Because we've said it before. He's mentally fit. He was a long-distance runner. He looks a lot healthier than the Cheeto Man, does he not?
Oh, 100%. I mean, Donald Trump looks like he could just pass out from too many Big Macs any given day. But Bernie, like, I'm telling you, I've seen the man go to like 5 different events in one day.
Yeah.
I was done after like 3 events. It's crazy. And by the way, someone's always too old or too young. Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, she's too young. She doesn't know anything.
Yeah,
Bernie, it's too old.
His time has passed. His time has passed. But here's the other one, smear number 2. He's too white, fam. I mean, I looked at this thing over here, Tim Cast over here, and this was early. Okay, you could see Bernie Sanders will lose the 2020 race because he's a white man. And that was early with almost 50,000 views on this stuff. So here comes the identity politics again. This is coming more from the left now. This is not coming from the right.
This is absolutely coming from the left.
Don't get me wrong. I mean, I think when he talked on TYT the other day, he noticed the fact that, hey, listen, I'm thinking that maybe I pick somebody a different gender than me to be my vice president. You know what I'm saying? But the fact is that we have to understand it's all about content of character. And Bernie Sanders, he has the resume to be the president, regardless if he's a white man or not. Don't get me wrong. I want Tulsi to be the vice president, not because she's the woman, because she's the most fit, I think, and the most capable and the best person for that job right now. So I think content of character has to outweigh the fact that he's a white man. Do we want diversity? Yes. But it shouldn't be something that will excuse Bernie Sanders and kick him out.
And one more thing. I love how the Democratic establishment uses anti-Semitism where it's fit when it comes to Ilhan Omar. But they completely forget that Bernie is Jewish, and that it's kind of ridiculous to ignore that that fact. He's not just a white guy. He's a first-generation immigrant. His parents and his family were not from here. Yeah. And it completely makes him a different person because you know what? He has those roots and he has that heritage, and people completely dismiss that when it comes to him. But if it's another establishment candidate, of course, or AIPAC money, then that's when they use the anti-Semitic trope.
Yeah, and I just would like to say right behind us is the woods in Bernie Sanders' backyards where he grew up. That was his tree over there, where he wrote down "I love Jane" and he carved it with a heart in there and stuff like that. But fam, after we were getting into it, like, okay, now he's too old. He's a white male. I said, what's next? What are we going to hear next? And guess what circulated back around?
What?
I don't like Bernie Sanders' stances on guns.
Oh,
the
God.
Brady Bill, fam. Remember that one, fam?
Yeah.
How many times do we have to go over this? And look what Jenna Siegel-Schwartz wrote.
Twister.
Why Bernie? Why? For anyone thinking about voting for Bernie, here's his track record on common sense gun laws. He voted against the Brady background check bill. He has taken NRA money. Where's that fucking coming from? He voted to allow guns on an Amtrak trains. We're talking about taking rifles, checking them in, and going up to the freaking wilderness to go shoot because, there's a difference between a rural area. And he refused to meet with gun violence survivors. I mean, this is just pure propaganda bullshit. It was started by the Clinton Foundation. They took this one little area of the Brady Bill, which we have to understand. The Brady Bill was about punishing distributors, and he couldn't punish rifle distributors in Vermont. He has all these people hunting.
Exactly. And we've gone over this 100 times. I honestly feel like it's out of...
What's his report card rating from the NRA?
A D- from the NRA.
D- minus
and he
from
did
the
not
NRA.
take money from them.
A D minus.
Ever. Like, where does that...
I don't even know where that's coming from. I want to see if he took money from the NRA and stuff like that. But here's the fourth reason, fam, because this is the one that really got me going. As I was scouring all over the internet yesterday and I was yelling at people for these stupid critiques, there was one critique that got me a little scared. Because there's my homeboy Anomaly, who's a popular podcaster on the right, and he had a live stream where he argued that Senator Sanders is the establishment's wet dream. And I think a lot of people have been kind of taking on the sense that since the convention, since when Bernie packed it on in and supported Hillary Clinton, he's then joined the establishment. And I think this is going to be something that we have to, this is going to be an argument, this is going to be turkey talk where you're going to see those conservatives on the right and those Main Street people. Oh, he is an establishment.
He's a sellout. He's a
sellout. He had a chance to be anti-establishment, but he chose to go with him. So we have a little clip over here from 3653 to 3819 with Anomaly. And don't get me wrong, Anomaly is mad loving. He's mad smart. He's not the average day, every Trump fan that you see all the time. This guy worked for Bernie Sanders. He gave up his life for Bernie Sanders. So he's upset, tarnished, and mad on what Bernie Sanders has done to him. And I love Anomaly. I really do. I don't agree with him at all on a lot of issues. And he's very, very smart. So I think he's kind of alerted us to something that we got to be ready to fight. Go ahead.
Should not be attacked or criticized. That's very dangerous. And if you didn't listen to me voting for Hillary, I voted for Jill Stein. If you voted third party or voted for Trump, then Russia must have gotten to you. No, Russia didn't get to me with their $5 Bill O'Reilly, Jesus versus the devil, hand wrestling. Like, oh yeah, I'm going to vote for Trump now because Bill O'Reilly told me to vote for Jesus. Like, no, Bernie, that's not what did it for me. I've known this stuff for a decade. Some of this stuff, it's deeper than that. Not only did he do that, he puts out tweets and he says, Trump lies all the time. He's like, well, me and George Bush disagreed a lot, but at least George Bush was just a conservative. Trump's a perpetual liar. So it's like, who is this guy, Mr. Anti-Establishment? He's throwing his own people under the bus after they sacrificed their lives, including myself, to raise $180 million for him. He throws us under the bus. He sides with the media. He sides with George Bush. He sides with Hillary Clinton. He'll do anything. He's not anti-establishment. He's pro-establishment, socialist communist who understands the only way that socialism or democratic socialism or full-fledged communism is going to come to this country is through the Democratic Party. Bernie Sanders understands that. Yes, he's independent because he wants to go further left, but he knows who his friends are. His friends are Obama. His friends are George Bush. His friends are Hillary Clinton. His friends are the establishment. His friends are the media who is pushing far leftism anyway, mixed in with establishment creepy leftism, warmongering stuff that I know progressives don't agree with. He knows that those are his friends because they don't... Communism and progressive socialism is not a threat to the establishment. Like Bernie says, I'm going to fight the establishment, but I'm going to be a socialist. Why do you think he stands with the Bushes and the Clintons and the media? It's because he's not anti-establishment. He's going to use the establishment, and they're going to use Bernie because high taxes and government control of the health industry is not a threat to the establishment. All
right, let's stop there, fam, because I know I can feel the fam getting wound up over here, fam. And when he says these things, I don't understand when he says, socialism, communism is the same thing as it could be establishment because it's completely anti-corporatist. So, fam, do you have anything to say about this? Because I don't want to discuss this because I also came up with 3 reasons because he sits there and starts claiming that Donald Trump is anti-establishment, that he wanted to crush the establishment, and Bernie joined it, fam. What's your thoughts?
Okay, so I'm going to be a little bit rational about this. Like, from his perspective and from the perspective of other leftists and other independents, I can see how they feel betrayed by Bernie because he did go and endorse Clinton. He did go tell people to vote for Clinton. He did kind of take that stance. However, if he wouldn't have done any of that, we wouldn't be in the situation where he's able to raise $6 million in 24 hours, and now he's a Democratic frontrunner, and he's still speaking the same language. However, it is his tactics of doing it differently. If we want someone that's going to go and tear them down with insults and go and actually be that vicious, that's not Bernie. And the fact that you can say that capitalism and socialism can be establishment doesn't make any sense. It doesn't make any sense because that's just impossible. What he is saying is that the socialist workers' revolution that's going to happen is not just going to happen within the Democratic Party. It's going to happen outside of the Democratic Party. Yeah. Those are his words. He said it himself, and he said, if I ever tell you to vote for, don't listen to me. He's been saying this for years.
Vote your conscience.
And he didn't forget that, and I just feel like a lot of people are forgetting that that was the mission all along. It wasn't for him to just win and have this ego of, look, I'm just going to stand up and I'm going to play the most wokest one in the room. It's, I'm going to pass this torch on, and we need to build upon this. This isn't just about winning right now.
Yeah. Well, listen, I got 3 reasons real quick. We'll go over of why Bernie Sanders is anti-establishment and Donald Trump is actually part of the establishment. He might have said he was anti-establishment, during the campaign, but that guy is so establishment. Number one, okay, I'm sorry, but I don't understand what Anami's take when he says the establishment doesn't care if we move to a single-payer system. They've been fighting this shit for so long. Key Democratic leaders have pocketed millions from big farmers, and they still are pocketing millions from big farmers. They campaign on single-payer in the primaries. They win their primaries, these establishment Democrats, and then they totally go away from it and say, code, we have to strengthen the ACA. In fact, remember when Obama had to take Dennis Kucinich on a plane to convince a progressive, like, hey man, you need to come aboard with us on this particular bill here, the ACA. I know it mandates, insurance, but we can't get to single payer if we don't start here. And Dennis Kucinich wanted to go for a single payer system when Obama had a full democratically controlled Congress on both sides, fam.
And they still didn't do it.
No, they didn't.
They managed to fail at that.
Yeah, okay. And since, let's see, since 1988, I think, Bernie Sanders, we have a little video over here, he's been fighting for single payer. I mean, it's ridiculous. This is a film of 1988. Go check this out. Fam, we're okay?
Linwood, Washington. Good evening.
Yes, I have 3 quick questions.
Okay.
If socialized medicine is so great, why do the wealthy of the world, including the Shah of Iran, come to America for treatment? Second question, will the last living socialist in the world be from Vermont? And third, was Adolf Hitler a socialist?
Thank you.
Well, let's start backwards and work our way up. No, I don't think Adolf Hitler was a socialist. He was a national socialist, a Nazi, and presumably, I suspect, arguably, one of the more horrendous human beings that has ever walked on the face of this earth. In terms of socialized medicine, why rich people such as the Shah of Iran can go any place they want to get the best health care that they can. And I would say that probably in the United States, if you're a millionaire, this country provides you with the best health care in the world. Okay? If I were a millionaire and I were living in Iran or any place in the world, I might well come to the United States. The question is, what happens if I'm making $20,000 a year and I can't afford the cost of health care? Where would I go? Well, then I'd have a lot of problems in the United States. 15% of our people have no health insurance whatsoever. The cost of Blue Cross, Blue Shield is zooming up. Doctors' bills are zooming up. One of the interesting contrasts that one might work is not worry about Iran or the Shah, but talk about the difference between Canada and the United States. In Canada, when they do polls, they find out that over 90% of the people feel good about their health insurance program, health insurance system. You have a conservative government in Canada, conservative, right-wing government that comes in, does not attempt to change one part of that program because that government understands there'll be a revolt on the part of the people. You do a poll in the United States of America and you say to Americans, how are you feeling about the health care in the United States? People saying, it's off the wall. I can't afford it. I can't afford to go to the doctor. I can't afford insurance. And the polls tell us that the American people are grossly dissatisfied with what's going on. One of the things that I've done lately, if I may give an advertisement for myself, a brief one, is that at the last conference that I attended with the National League of Cities and Towns, we managed, with some other people, to push through a resolution on the part of the National League calling upon the Congress to develop a national health care system. I think that that's the way we have to go.
Right there, stop it right there. All right, so we have to cut that short. I mean, it was at the end anyways, but fam, that's anti-establishment as fuck. He was doing that in 1988. He was doing that
before I was born. Okay. And we still haven't fixed the situation. And by the way, this is Medicare for all, universal health care, unlike Anomaly said, is not for more government control. No, that is actually so people have access to it, okay, in general, because healthcare is a human right. And that is one of the main lies that people who don't understand Medicare for all or who aren't for it say that, the government's going to have control over your healthcare. Actually, the government has more control now over our healthcare because people are dying because they can't afford it, because people are getting paid big money to continue to support these lobbyists, big pharma, and insurance companies. That's government control. Medicare for all is people control.
That's going to be a hard argument, too, with a conservative on Thanksgiving on Turkey Talk, because they're always going to do that stuff. P.J. O'Rourke, who was a famous comedian, used to go on Bill Maher all the time, used to say, Republicans complain that government doesn't work, then they get elected and prove it. It's like, oh, you know what I'm saying? It's like, we're going to put healthcare in the system of the government now? They can't do anything right. They're a bunch of crooks.
I'm done with that argument.
No, leave it out. But that's a tough argument. It's going to be hard to crack that shell. But still, once again, we pay twice as much than the country right next to us. Every single socialized country has come up with a socialized medicine, a form of socialized medicine. We can do the same if we're the greatest countries. Number 2, fam, because I know you like this one from when Tulsi Gabbard said, because he's this bitch talking about Donald Trump being this is another reason why he's very establishment and Bernie Sanders is not. Like, unlike the establishment hacks, Bernie is in Saudi Arabia and Israel's BITCH, okay? You can see a little picture of Mr. Donald Trump over here hanging out with the Saudis, okay? All right, and there's a lot of other, let's see what other establishment. Oh, there's Barack Obama, another establishment guy. There's George Bush Jr. Who else we got? Oh, there's Bill Clinton with the Saudis. Oh, there's George Bush Sr. And finally, Ronald Reagan. So Donald Trump has followed up and been Saudi Arabia's bitch, just like every single establishment president beforehand, okay? All right. And what does Bernie Sanders say about our relationship? He talks, we need to reevaluate it. Right?
Exactly.
Take a look at Bernie Sanders, how he feels about Saudi Arabia.
Block some of these arms sales to Saudi Arabia. But, Mr. President, I also think it is long past time that we begin to take a very hard look at our relationship with Saudi Arabia. This is a country that is run by a hereditary monarchy in which women are treated as third-class citizens.
All right, there it goes, fam.
That's it. That's enough
right
for
there.
me.
Is there a picture of Bernie Sanders with one of the Saudi princes? No, I'm sorry, not available.
And not to mention the fact that we are
fam.
still giving them weapons, and we're still, fueling what they're doing.
Yeah.
And it's disgusting. And he's one of the few people that has actually spoken out against that.
And remember Donald Trump, because there's more, fam. That's just Saudi Arabia. Now we got the Israel thing and stuff like that because, we have a president who said once, remember when he started crying about on the campaign trail, the famous drain the swamp, and he talks about lobbyists. Watch this, fam. Anti-establishment guy.
Oh, God. Do I have to? Okay.
Is there words coming up though? Where's the?
No. Okay.
Okay, well it's okay. That was his famous drain the swamp speech, fam, where he goes, "We got to stop it because they're all lobbyists, and these staffs they become lobbyists." But then where does he go, and where does he speak to? Look at this. This is at AIPAC. AIPAC, who are lobbyists.
When I become president, the days of treating Israel like a second-class citizen will end on day one. We will move the American embassy to the eternal capital of the Jewish people, Jerusalem.
Okay, so fam, Mr. Adelson, the owner in Vegas, who paid him millions of dollars for this, he goes and he speaks at AIPAC, which are what, fam? Lobbyists.
Oh, absolutely. They're lobbyists, but...
And guess what, too, fam? Look at this.
Oh.
We got some pictures of other famous establishment people. Oh, there's Chuck Schumer over there, I think, speaking to lobbyists. We have Nancy Pelosi speaking to lobbyists. Who else we got? Give us some more. Oh, there's Mr. Barack Obama speaking and pandering. Oh, Hillary Clinton pandering to lobbyists. Establishment George Bush. And establishment Mr. John McCain. And let's get the picture of who? Donald J. Trump. Mr. Establishment talking to fucking lobbyists, fam.
And he campaigned as an anti-interventionist candidate. He campaigned as an anti-establishment. And you guys got to be honest. I mean, even if I were to ignore everything else that's terrible, even if I were to just vote for him for economics and for making America great again and for kind of having better trade policies, which are probably maybe one of the few things in his stance on North Korea and Syria that he kind of backtracked on anyway.
Yeah.
Are one of the couple things he's done. But even if I ignored everything else and did that, he's not anti-establishment. He's still keeping us in these wars, in these occupations, and he's now pushing for us to go into Venezuela. So no, that everything that he said and he ran on is false. So
yeah, and here's the third reason, fam, because here's the number one reason why Bernie Sanders is anti-establishment and Donald Trump is not. You know why? Because Bernie Sanders is for the working class. Bernie Sanders is for supporting unions.
And he shows it.
Donald Trump is for supporting fucking corporations. Look at his tax break, for crying out loud. Bernie Sanders, what did he do? After he lost the election, he went out and he started working, marching with Disney workers, got them a raise. Then he went over and took on Amazon. Guess what, fam? He got them a raise. And what about Verizon? He stood up with people at Verizon, got them a raise. And you will always see Bernie Sanders walking the picket line, striking with people. You have videos and pictures like this galore. Do we have anything of Donald Trump? I'm sorry, not available. We haven't found a picture of Donald Trump out there walking and striking with workers.
It's beneath him. That's the thing. Bernie Sanders was an activist. Yeah. He was an organizer. He was one of us. And I say that because I'm very involved in my community too. And I just love seeing someone like that. Someone that's actually walks the walk and doesn't just talk the talk, actually being part of our politics. Same reason why I do like Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, because she is like the same kind of mindset.
She is, and then that's the whole thing. If you're supporting corporations, you're supporting the establishment. That's what they're all about. Bernie Sanders has never done that. He's anti-establishment as fuck. He's still standing for workers, and I'm sorry for cursing. I love my boy Anomaly, but you're so wrong on this one, brother. And I'd love to debate you more on it. And give me a call. We'll hook
up.
I'd
love to debate him, actually,
I know.
because
I love Anomaly.
I'm a little bit more.
Yeah, I mean, Anomaly is he's definitely of different mentality and different ideology than us.
And we should be able to have those tough conversations.
Yeah, we should. So. We should be able to talk. Fam, you had something going on, I think.
I do. So I think it's very important that in all our excitement for Bernie and all of our, just like our happiness for Bernie and how well he's done, we don't forget who we were in 2016. We were supporting a grassroots movement from an unknown senator from Vermont, and people told us what we had was pie in the sky, that we couldn't win, that we couldn't even get that far, that we should just give up. And we were the only ones talking about these things that were seen as so radical. But this time around, because of what happened in 2016, because Bernie inspired so many people like Tulsi Gabbard have jumped into the race. People like Mr. Andrew Yang have jumped in the race. And you know what? They need us because the establishment and the media completely ignore them. They black them out. Yeah. And they deserve to be on stage because these are progressive voices that wouldn't have happened without Bernie. And it wouldn't be very progressive or honest or just right of us to completely ignore them simply because they are not our candidate. And I believe Tulsi Gabbard is one of the strongest
we need a voice on that stage,
of State for that. And I think her anti-war and anti-imperialist stance needs to be heard. Needs to be heard because nobody else is really talking about that big. Even Bernie will mention it, but she goes really deep into it. And other progressive voices like Yang are actually supportive of Bernie. He made several tweets in support of Bernie, saying he has inspired millions of people and transformed our politics. I was an admirer and I still am. I'm glad he's running, and I'm sure his work will continue to move us all in the right direction. And so it's not fair to completely act like we are above it, because that's what the establishment does. We are still part of this progressive movement. We all want our progressives to get on that stage and push each other right on the issues. And that's why I am donating to multiple candidates, not just one.
I'm donating to Tulsi as well. And there's 3 areas I think we kind of noticed where we think Bernie Sanders needs to get a little bit work on.
Where the criticisms are correct,
And 2 of the 3, Tulsi's already been there.
Right.
So I want to see her on a third issue, which is election integrity. On the left, I think we need to make sure that these elections coming up are fair, and Bernie Sanders has to call it. Any atrocities this time. What happened in Nevada can't happen again. What happened in Arizona can't happen again. What happened in Florida and New York with the purging cannot happen again. So that's where he lost a lot of support, and we have to be able to call it out. I'm kind of interested to see what Tulsi has to say when it comes to election integrity, because she's been so good on regime change, and she's been so good on war, fam. Fam, you got to get to work today. They're waiting for you to pour some nice glasses of Pinot Noir and have some beautiful tender lamb. For Fiorella Isabel.
And what?
I just did it wrong. Yeah. I don't know.
Yeah.
You're supposed to say for pasta Jardula.
Guys, thank you so much for watching. I appreciate you all for watching, and I appreciate you for giving your insight. And please let us know in the comments what you think of what's being said. Please let us know your stance on how you feel about Bernie's run, about Tulsi's run, and know that you know, this is a very, very pivotal election, and we're going to try to follow it as closely as we can. So thank you very much for watching.
Can you tell people to go over to our YouTube's watch
yeah,
because they listen to you, fam.
They listen to you.
The star over here, she wants us to go over to the YouTube,
Please go
Facebook.
to our YouTube, Facebook, and subscribe to our CONVO Couch. Subscribe to MCSC Network.
Yes, MCSC Network. YouTubes. We need
shout
some help
out
on the YouTubes.
Shout out to our peeps from MCSC Network. Nico House. Find your balance.
Yes, we love you too. And we want to send a shout out to Anomaly. Sorry for picking on you the show, but we can talk more about these issues. I am Pasta Jardula.
And I'm Fiorella. CONVO out. Bye, guys.
Fam, let's get you.